This should be the last of the 3 videos of the sample problems that will help you to prepare for the test on chapters 9 and 10. We ended up on this slide, and now I'm going to move on to this question about factoring the trinomial. I'll do 11 and then I'll do 14, starting with 11 on the left here. In order to figure out what the factors are for this trinomial, I've got to first figure out what the factors are for the number out on the right, the constant. This is negative 42. So what are the factors of negative 42? I've taught you guys to make a rainbow pattern here. 1 times negative 42 will make negative 42. 2 also goes in, though. That would be 2 times negative 21. 3 goes in as well. 3 times negative 14. 4 does not go in. 5 does not go in, but 6 does. That would be 6 times negative 7. And then the door is closed. There's no room in between here anymore. We're done. So those are the 4 pairs, but there are also their opposites. So I could have had 1 times negative 42, but I also could have had negative 1 times positive 42, and so on down the line. I'm sorry about the sloppy writing. My pen was having a lot of trouble today on the smartboard. 2 times negative 21 and negative 2 times positive 21, 3 times negative 14, or negative 3 times 14, 6 times negative 7, or negative 6 times 7. Any of those pairs could have made negative 42. So now I've got to find one of these 8 pairs here that's going to add to make negative 1. It's got to make my middle, the coefficient on my middle term here, so negative 1. And the one that is, or the one that does, is 6 plus negative 7. Notice that negative 6 plus 7 would have made positive 1, but I want negative 1. So it's 6 plus negative 7, and so my answer is going to be x plus 6, since that's a positive 6, x minus 7, since that's a negative 7. And those are my factors. That's what I was asked for here, was the factors of the trinomial. Now we'll do the one on the right. Bring this up to the top, delete that part. It's covering it up, and this time I'm trying to find the factors of positive 36. Now, the way we've been doing this, we've been doing so many practice problems that had a negative number out here on the right, that I really want to remind you of something about what happens when you've got a positive number on the right. The factors of positive 36, well, there are a lot of them. 1 times 36, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 4 times 9, and 6 times 6. But remember, each of those could have a negative opposite. So it could have been 1 and 36, or it could have been negative 1 and negative 36. Could have been 2 and 18, but it also could have been negative 2 and negative 18, and so on. I'm not going to write them all out here. There isn't really room. But I'm looking for a pair that's going to add up to make 13. All right, so let's see what that is. Okay, 4 and 9. Look here, 4 times 9 does make 36, and 4 plus 9 does make 13, and that's the only pair where that's true. So my factors are going to be x plus 4, x plus 9. Pause anytime you need to, and rewind whenever you need to. We're going to move on to the next category of questions. In this case, I guess I didn't write down the instructions, but you were supposed to solve for x and figure out what x is. If you're asked to solve, you're going to have to do this by getting all of the information over to the left equal to 0. So for example, it says right now x squared minus 8 equals negative x, but you want it to be equal to 0 in order to be able to solve. So you're going to move that 7x over to the left. Add 7x to both sides, and you're going to end up with x squared plus 7x minus 8 on the left equals, well, those two things cancel, 0 on the right. All right, now I've got something that I can factor. I've got to find factors of negative 8. I don't know why I wrote negative 1. I meant to write negative 8 there. That's a typo. But it's 1 times negative 8, or 2 times negative 4, or their opposites. So it could have been 1 negative 8 or negative 1 8, and so on over here. Now I'm looking for one of these 4 pairs that adds up to make positive 7, negative 1, and positive 8 do. So my factors on the left are x minus 1, x plus 8. Well, remember, those things are equal to 0. And remember, although I forgot to copy and paste the instructions up here, you were asked to solve for x. So I got to keep going here. If x minus 1 times x plus 8 equals 0, the only way that's possible is either x minus 1 was 0 or x plus 8 was 0. Like I write down there. If x minus 1 is 0, then I got to figure out what x is. So I add 1 to both sides, and when I do that, those cancel, and I'm left with x only on the left side and 1 only on the right side, and that means x equals 1. Same thing over here. If I want to figure out what x is, I got to move the 8 by subtracting it off, and that's going to end up meaning that x equals negative 8. Let's go back up here to the top, delete this thing off. Good. And like before, I've got a trinomial, but it's not set equal to 0. You cannot solve until it's set equal to 0. So I'm going to move this 4 over. Subtract 4 from both sides. And I'm going to end up with x squared minus 4x minus 12, the negative 8 and the negative 4 combined. And on the right side, since those canceled, I've got 0 on the right, which is what I wanted. So now I got to find the factors of negative 12. And I kind of skip ahead here since we've done so many of these by now. And I'm just telling you that negative 6 and 2 are factors that multiply to make negative 12 and add to make negative 4. And that's what I've been looking for. So the factors on the left are going to be x minus 6, x plus 2. Once again, it's equal to 0. And like the problem on the left, that means x is either positive 6, notice all it really did was change its sign, or x is negative 2, again it changed its sign. That's the end. I encourage you to come in with any questions that you have, but go ahead and work through as many of the problems as you need to in the guide that I've given you, and hopefully by matching them up against the answers that I've put on my website and the worked out solutions in these videos, I'm hoping that you folks are going to feel like you're very well prepared for the test.